a career path, right? Even though they had visions of me becoming a manager because of my leadership skills from the military. To me, it wasn't, so I went to the recruiting center really quick. I had some 20-year-old lieutenant ask me a whole bunch of questions. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? I said, now I realize why I got out. And I folded my, closed my briefcase. And the guy said, what are you doing? I said, this interview's over. I'm leaving. Because he started questioning my morality, right? I said, you've been out for 3 years. Are you a druggie or are you all this? I looked at him. I said, seriously? Right. And so I just said, nope. I said, I'm done. And I left there. And a friend of mine called me about the course at Royal Roads University, the MCSC Plus I. And he said, hey, like, why don't we go take a look at this? So I went in there, I signed up, I wrote the most exams, or passed most exams ever in the school's history in a 6-month period. So I broke all type of records because as an older guy and I was paying for 15 grand for this course, I was going to be good. And from that class, I got a job at Microsoft and my IT career began.
What timeline was this? So what was the timeline between when you started, when you went back into uni and actually going to work for Microsoft? What year? What was the timeline for this?
1999.
So this was just to preface, this is when the internet, the .com, this is when it was actually starting to become a thing. So in a way, would you say you kind of got in the market when it was hot? It was new.
Very hot. Here's the coolest thing about when Microsoft hired me. I had a pulse, right? Literally what they were looking for, because they had, you remember Y2K?
Yeah.
Well, anyways, they needed people to come in and test. Right? And so what the Royal Roads gave us was the opening into that world, even though none of us knew what it was. Honestly, none of us did. I got hired at Microsoft right at Christmas time. I got there, met my boss, right? He set me up, and then they disappeared for a week. And I said, what do I do? He said, walk around the hall. He gave me a list of all the computers. I said, where do I get them? He goes, well, people throw stuff out in the hallway. That means that's refurbished stuff. Take whatever you want. Nobody cares. So I set up my whole office, because I had my own office, and it had like those old TV monitors. I don't know if you guys remember those ones. So that's why I used to call myself glowing in the dark, because I surround myself with monitors, and I built my own network, replicated what they were doing, and for the system that they want to test it. And I just started working 13, 14 hours a day.
Wow.
I was there by myself. My kids were in Canada. And I literally got in there at 6 in the morning and I worked till 7 o'clock at night. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Well, first off, Microsoft would feed you for free. Right. So I'd get into work, right, and I'd learn. After about 2 months there, my boss came up and said, hey, I see when you clock in, when you clock out. He goes, yeah. He says, well, you're not allowed to work all that overtime, right, because I can get in trouble. I went, oh, so what do you tell me? He says, I also noticed you log the most bugs of anybody on my team, and you're brand new. He says, if you're gonna work log bugs, he says, I'm gonna pay you. So my pay doubled overnight. The minute he said that, I started logging 70 hours a week, and I started doubling my pay. And so that really turned me. 6 months later, I got offered a QA manager role at Microsoft, became the lead. Then they offered me full time.
And now, just the purpose of QA, was that quality assurance, or was
quality
QA?
Assurance? Yeah, it's quality assurance. Yeah.
Got you. Interesting. So now, I'm just paying attention to what you just said there, was you had the position, right? Which obviously entry-level position, but you put in the work.
I put in the work, yes.
Right? You put in the work. Now, how much of success would you say is attributed to, pure luck or hard work?
There's no such thing as pure luck. It's you make your own luck by working hard. Gotcha. People notice you by your hard work. So I got to work every hour I wanted, right? And because I was leading the pack, right? And I'm very competitive. You have to be competitive in anything that you do in life.
Gotcha.
And so I always wanted to be number one, or be as close to be as number one as I can. I'm not as smart as you. I'm not as smart as some of the other guys at Microsoft. Literally, Manuel, the first week I used to walk around there when they all came back after New Year's, right? And I was looking around like, what the hell am I doing here? I'm 40 years old. Imagine that, 40 years old, brand new in the IT industry, with all these kids in their young 20s, super smart, coders, developers. You're talking about, I mean, I knew 3 languages, right? That was English, French, and a little bit of German. I didn't know any coding languages, right?
Yeah.
And these kids were super smart, but none of them had leadership skills. And a lot of them were, they didn't have, I would say, the drive to become successful. They were like heads down nerds, 100% nerds, right? And nothing against them, right? But they didn't have the people skills. and a lot of them were just there. And no offense to Microsoft, but you'd walk into a lab and it'd have 100 people in that lab, and 90 of them were playing games, an 8-hour day playing games, do a little bit of testing, just enough so they didn't get fired. And then you had the people that would work hard, and the people that work hard were the ones that got noticed, that got promoted, that got, the offers to go full time.
Yeah.
But, it's all comes down to, where do you want to be and what do you want to do in life? A lot of people go to work and they don't want to work. They want to get paid without.
But they don't want to put it work. Now this is, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, right? And it's just kind of like, I want to, just for the audience, because we're going to have two different sides. We're going to have people who are like, yes, I'm very competitive. And you're going to have people who are like, well, I'm not really competitive. I don't like to ruffle feathers, right? So now let's say I'm on the non-competitive side and I get in, right? How do I get that competitive edge? Is because let's say I'm somebody who's timid, who's shy, and I don't, typically like to socialize a lot. How would you recommend that I get that competitive edge?
Well, what you have to do is be the best with yourself. You have to be competitive with yourself. First off, right, you know what job has to get done.
Mm-hmm.
Actually look in the mirror and say, would I fire myself today for what I did today? Or would I fire myself because what I didn't do today? Gotcha. Right? Or am I going to get promoted because of the effort? So in every industry, even when I ran my own large groups, I needed every type of personality on the team. I call them the idiots like me that would jump in without looking, deep end of the pool, and just absorb everything you can and get through as much as you can really fast, right? Mm-hmm. Now, we didn't always have the best quality because our job was to go in and figure out how this monster worked. I would have the second group come in, a little bit more technical, a little bit, would come in and figure out more areas. And then I had the third group would come in, and it's not that they were slower enough, but they were more methodical. Mm-hmm. They were like, okay, we're going to cross the I's, dot the T's. They were like, they would go through everything and make sure all the other stuff in the line features, the product actually did what they were supposed to do. So I needed that one team that would go in, hey, brand new product, let's go figure this out really fast. They can handle the stress. They can handle things failing. They can handle everything and think outside the box to get it to work, right? Now, those guys, if you, like me, if you put me on where I had to do the same routine every day out, I say, okay, I'm done. I can't handle this, right? So you have to figure out what your strengths are. There are people that, no, I need everything a certain way. And trust me, when I'm done with it, it's going to be the best product you've ever seen. So we need that, right? But you also need the other types as well. So you need both. And not every person that's a manager should be a manager either.
Gotcha.
Right? You have people that are people managers. You have people that are technical managers. Two different types of positions. Right? Because you can have a technical manager that can't handle people because they have no idea how to handle people. They don't know how to handle crisis. They don't know how to handle all the different personalities. And we all have personalities. So
there's got to be a little bit of a balance, because you could be, if you don't know how to relate to people, then, and you have all the skill sets, it's like, have you heard there's the two camps, the Nikola Tesla and the, what's the other inventor's name again? The light bulb.
Einstein.
Yes, I think it was Einstein or Edison, one of them.
Edison is the light bulb.
Yeah, I think it was Edison, and Tesla. Someone is going to comment and correct me about this. But one of them had Nikola Tesla had all the inventions, but nobody knew him, right? But on the other hand, you had, Edison, who was a very good marketer.
Marketing, yes.
Right? Who was a very good people person. And it kind of brings me to now, in this current day and age, right? In the, which we're gonna, we're kind of getting a little bit off topic, but how much of, if I was a new business or a new sales rep, how much of it would it be that I'm succeeding because of product, or I'm succeeding because I'm very good at talking about myself?
You have to, like I said, once again, product knowledge is always about 5% at the start.
Okay.
Product knowledge is going to come as you're doing it, right? Within a 3 to 4 month period, if you're not a SME, which is a subject matter expert, you're not paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. But you have to be able to talk, and I call it the BS factor. Okay. Right. It's all like smoke and mirrors. Like all my students, when I train thousands of people, right, how to get jobs, they'd always say, what was my degree? I said, it was in BS. They go, oh, you got a bad? I said, no, it's a bullshit degree. Right. And the fact is, I was very comfortable because I would never lie to the client, but I would, it was my confidence in myself. And that's what a salesman, that's what people want. Like when I see you, me and you have always got along good. You always smiled.
Yeah.
day one, always a smile on your face. You were aggressive. You knew what you wanted, right? But you're like honest to the T. And that's important. That's what people are looking for. It's integrity, right? That you got to have personality, right? Let's put it this way. If you're not a type A personality, you're probably going to struggle in sales because you don't believe in yourself, first off.
Interesting.
And you're like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Well, you're already going to fail.
Gotcha.
Like, okay, I'm going to fail. That's okay. Like when I went into the virtual sales, right? I was over 27. Like 0. That's not like appointments. That's actually talking to people. So, and I'm a guy that wrote, like you said, I helped 500 clients in 1 year on my own pen. And how did I do that? What was my personality and going in and offering them exactly what they were looking for. But when I went virtual, it's like I completely forgot everything.
Gotcha.
I had nothing in place. I was like all over the board and I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. And I'm a person that, you want to be good, but you have to be able to step back and go, okay, what the hell am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Right. I had nothing in place. I forgot how to do it.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So now, which brings me to, because you were talking about 500, helping 500 people. Now, you also run a sales organization, right? That helps, protect families, especially in the financial space. Now, I'm very curious as far as, you went from the tech world and you ran it, do you still run the tech company?
Yes.
And that's it's a QA 101 consultant, right?
So the school is done. So COVID killed the school. Even though I have a lot of people still asking me to teach them, I just don't have the bandwidth anymore.
Gotcha. Now, if let's say, who is an ideal client? Let's say I'm watching this video. If I'm looking for tech consultant, is your company a good company to reach out to learn about different, whatever tech space or tech niche or tech stuff that goes in?
So what we do is quality assurance. So I can walk in and tell you what you're going to need just by looking at your documents for how many resources, how much it's going to cost you, right, on what you need.
Gotcha.
Right? Technologies don't matter, honestly. It all comes down to like, okay, you want to deliver this. What's your audience? What are you going after? Right. And this is what it's going to cost you.
Gotcha.
Plain simple. It's not hard. You don't make this like I've been in so many meetings with people and you'll have the person that uses all the big words to try and confuse everybody. And what I would do is I would question them on one of the big words. And I said, can you explain that to me? Because like, I'm really dumb. And then they couldn't. I said, why are you bringing that up when you can't even explain what you're trying to sell us?
Gotcha.
And if you can explain it, perfect. Explain it to me so I can understand, because I'm not the brightest person in here. Right. And I would always make myself come down like that. So they would say, hey, listen, speak in layman terms. Execs do not want to hear the nuts and bolts of shit. They want it right to the point. This is what it's going to take. This is what it's going to be, because they don't have time for the BS.
Yeah.
They don't want a big word to go like, what the hell? Like, can you just tell me in English? So, because I have a report I have to read and get in front of my bosses. And so that's how I always approach it. That's why I won a lot of contracts at Microsoft.
Interesting. Right. So what's if I needed some QA 101 consultant, what's the best way to reach out to you regarding that?
Just send out email to me.
What's the email to reach out to?
It's Brian at Wolves Financial Services.
Okay, Brian is
put into one.
Okay, Brian at Wolves. I'm gonna leave a link in the description. If you want to reach out to Brian, regarding looking at the quality assurance of your product, your tech product, or whatever your business is, just the email is going to be in the description. So now let's transition. So you go from running QA 101, which is, I looked it up, is a very successful consulting company, and you go from that to transition into the financial services industry. How does that? What was the
motivating factor? All right. So one of the things, when I was in the IT industry, I used to drive wherever they needed me. I was a hired gun.
Okay.
Wherever paid me the most, that's where I'd go. Right. I had full-time gigs. There always stuff happens, right, where there's layoffs and everything else. Didn't matter. Microsoft, every company had them. Right. Hey, your project's no longer needed. You're done. So, but I had a very good niche of going in and fixing stuff. So people would hire me when they had shit was falling apart, and I'd go in, look at it, and I would just break it down to the basics, right? And say, okay, this is what we need to do, right? Let's start with this building blocks and build the foundation first. Right now, you're trying to get on the top of the skyscraper. You have nothing below. I said, let's get back down here and start building from there. And in the IT industry, the thing is, like, at my age, I was looking at like, when's the end going to be?
Mm-hmm.
So when is it going to end? Because the school like was transitioning, right? I was still getting like 40 people a class. It was fun. And my wife was telling me forever, you got to like retire. You got to stop. Well, I wasn't ready to retire, to be honest.
Mm.
Still not ready to retire. I'm 62. I don't want to retire. What the hell? I'm going to retire when I'm 90, right? So my idea was, what can I do and what industry pays residual income?
Yeah.
My school, I trained a lot of people, but once they left the class, I didn't get paid.
Gotcha.
Consulting services, I got paid every hour